Roguelite. What is it? A roguelite's a term used to describe a game that's similar to a roguelike, but differs in some ways. But to really understand it, we need to go all the way back to the beginning. A genre was born with the release of the game Rogue. The graphics weren't quite what we come to expect nowadays. It was just a simple text adventure. What made Rogue so special is that every time you played it, it was different. The rooms you would enter would be completely random. This allowed the game to not feel repetitive, which was a problem with a lot of games at the time. Along with the randomly generated levels, this game lacked any sort of save feature, so anytime you booted up the game, you'd be starting fresh. It also means that every time you die in the game, you die in real life. Nah, just kidding. It just means you start from scratch when you die. These two elements, the randomly generated levels along with restarting when you die, became the defining features of the game. Even though it was a relatively simple game, that permanent death gave it some serious stakes, and the randomly generated levels allowed for much more replayability. In the next decade or so, there were other similar games people were grouping together with Rogue, such as Hack and Moria. That's around when people came up with the term roguelike, just naming it after the first big game in the genre. There was actually a game called Beneath Apple Manor, released 2 years earlier in 1978, but I guess Beneath Apple Manor-like doesn't really flow off the tongue quite as well. So the genre did come with stipulations. Just because a game may be similar to Rogue doesn't make it a roguelike. The game has to have randomly generated levels, along with completely resetting when you die. There are a lot of other specifics that people say are included with roguelikes, but in my opinion they're not quite as important. As the genre progressed, we got some great games like NetHack and ToeJam and Earl, but none were really breaking into the mainstream. A big reason as to why that is that they were just so darn hard. The only sense of progression came with getting better at the game and further understanding all the systems. While it feels amazing to master a game, you gotta play for a long time to get there, so it was quite alienating for a lot of people. But the people that liked roguelikes loved them. I think it was a mix of the genre being so unforgiving to newcomers, along with the harsh restrictions of the term roguelike, that led to a lot of games never having exactly what's needed to be considered a roguelike. It seemed the industry was kind of evolving. A lot of games were taking some of the best elements of roguelikes but adding in new things, like permanent unlocks between runs. There ended up being way more games that were similar to roguelikes than there were actual roguelikes. The term roguelike was even thrown around a bit. Eventually, in 2013, the game Rogue Legacy was released, and the developers called it a roguelite, a funny yet accurate way of categorizing these games, and it kind of just stuck, and now this new genre finally has a name. So the genre got bigger and bigger, and we got some amazing games like Hades, Returnal, Downwell, and Risk of Rain. And we finally had a way to categorize these games that are like Rogue, but different enough to not be a roguelite. And that's all there is to it. Or is it? See, we could just call it a day there, but I can't. I discovered something that blows this whole damn thing out of the water. A conspiracy that goes all the way to the top. You see, they don't want you to know this, but I couldn't keep it in. For the sake of the gamers that care way too much about genres, consequences be damned. I'm going to spread this info to the world. Just make sure to share the video to all your friends, your mom, your grandma. Trust me, they're gonna want to know this. Also make sure to smash that motherfucking like button. Okay, now, it all began only weeks ago during the 2023 Game Awards, when in the 2 hours and 45 minutes of ads and announcements of the 3-hour-long showcase celebrating the industry and its developers, something interesting was announced. God of War Ragnarok received a free update called Valhalla, a roguelite mode that also acted as an epilogue to the story of the game. However, as you may know, this isn't the only game as of recent to get a roguelite mode. In early 2023, we also got Hitman Freelancer mode, a roguelite mode for the Hitman World of Assassination game. And now The Last of Us Part 2 just came out with a roguelite mode. So when Valhalla was announced, there started to be a lot of chatter online, like, wow, now everything has to be a roguelite. It's similar to when PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds got released in 2017, and then every game after that had to be a battle royale. But then I started thinking about it more, and I kind of realized that almost everything already is a roguelike. Well, not almost everything, but a lot more than we realized. Let me explain. So I already said how roguelikes have a very defined boundary on what makes a game a roguelike or not. But by making a roguelite just similar to a roguelike, it expands the genre to be almost anything. The entire genre boils down to games that are similar to roguelikes, but different in some ways. It's like art. There's almost nothing stopping something from being a roguelite. Is this Parkbench a roguelite? I don't see why not. While standout roguelites have a lot of similar DNA, you could argue there's a lot more that fits into the mold. As a part of the DLC for Zelda Breath of the Wild was the Master Trials, a quest to power up the Master Sword. In this quest, you're stripped of all your gear and must fight through rooms of enemies. You keep anything you pick up along the way, but if you die, you go back to the beginning. After a certain number of rooms beaten, you get to progress to the next batch of rooms until you eventually go through them all and you get to upgrade the Master Sword. It sounds a whole lot like a roguelite to me. Yeah, the rooms aren't randomly generated, but show me the rule where a roguelite has to have randomly generated rooms. Keeping things Nintendo, what about the 100 Mario challenge in Mario Maker? You're going through random user-created levels, and if you lose, you go all the way back to the beginning. Seems pretty roguelitey to me. What the hell? Fortnite. Oh, this is gonna piss people off. You're dropping down on a map that's pretty consistently changing. You start every round with nothing. The loot is somewhat randomized with its locations and what you get. Yeah, it's a stretch, but I'd say it's close enough. And why not? At that point, might as well throw the whole Battle Royale genre in there too. What about time looping games like Majora's Mask or Deathloop? Yeah, you're keeping a lot of things you get, and it's a pretty progressing story. That one might be too much of a stretch, actually. Minecraft, the worlds are randomly generated. You lose all your stuff when you die. Wait, does that make Minecraft Hardcore Mode a traditional roguelike? I kind of think so. Wait, I have an idea. This is the scale of rogue. Every video game ever made is somewhere on this list. Well, not like actually here, I only have a few, but you get the point. On one end, we have the original, Rogue. Way on the other end, we have what I thought was the complete opposite of Rogue, Club Penguin. Then everything else in the middle is every other game ever. Up here we've got like the hardcore roguelike games, Caves of Quud, I don't know if I'm saying that right, Rift Wizard. Then a bit down we've got the games that not everyone considers roguelikes, but I do. Binding of Isaac, Into the Breach. Then we start to get into the traditional roguelites, Returnal, Hades, Dead Cells, God of War Valhalla, stuff like that. And then everything else is the dumb shit that I put in. We got the Master Trials from Breath of the Wild, the 100 Mario Challenge, Fortnite, Minecraft, shit like that. Then right here is the defining line. In my opinion, everything in front of this line is fair game to be considered a roguelite, but everything on the left side is just a bit too much of a stretch in my opinion to call it a roguelite. Like right here we've got some games that I would consider are close, but just not close enough. This is where we have like most games in general, RPGs, fighting games, visual novels, stuff like that. When you think about it, a lot of them do have roguelite elements, but in my opinion it's just too much of a stretch to call something like Street Fighter 6 a roguelite. Also, I feel like that would get me shot by the Street Fighter community and the roguelite community. I find there's a lot of games in this region that just lean a bit one way more than another. It's weird, you kind of have to just get a sense of what you consider a roguelite and what you don't consider a roguelite. Kind of like you know it when you see it, you know? But when you really think about this, like really think about it, and I mean really think, you start to realize how absolutely stupid this all is. Why do we as gamers require for our games to be something? Why must we categorize each and every game to fit into a simple mold? You know, my ex used to always say, we don't need a label. That's when things get complicated. We don't want things to get complicated, do we? We need to stop restricting our games to be a certain things and just let them be. Even a few of the games that I discussed that should clearly be in one of these categories still have people arguing on whether or not they're a roguelite or a roguelike, like Binding of Isaac. Like, just chill the F out and play the games that you want to play. It is weird though to think that with all these roguelite modes being announced that it sparked a whole ass conversation online as to why these modes should even exist in the first place. Yes, while it is a trend, these roguelike elements have been around for a long time. They just liked the genre and thought, I kind of think our game would work well as a roguelite. And you know what? They're usually right. I played through Valhalla and had a great time. It was a good ending to Kratos' story in Ragnarok. I've been dipping my toes in the Hitman Freelancer mode. It adds so much replayability to an already huge game. And I've been trying out the new No Return mode in Last of Us Part 2. These games have completely different takes on the genre, but are still fun in their own right. All this got me thinking, I wonder what other games would stand to benefit from a new roguelite mode. The first game that immediately comes to mind is Metal Gear Solid 5. This is one of those games that I'll always just randomly pick up and play for a few hours and then put back for another couple months. The sandbox nature of MGS5 lends itself so well to the roguelite formula. The game is full of fun unlockables between different guns and gadgets. It could throw you into randomly generated enemy camps, and then give you a specific objective, like take a specific person out or extract these targets, along with giving you bonus goals to fulfill for some extra rewards. Speaking of sandbox games, I feel like Tears of the Kingdom would be another great one. I'd have it be similar to the Master Trials, but make the enemy camps randomly generated to give it more replayability. I feel like it'd be a great way to test the skill and creativity of the players. What else? Ghost of Tsushima? That game's got some really fun combat and great unlockables that could work well in a similar way to how Valhalla does. Or even Pokemon? Maybe it'd give you a choice between 3 random Pokemon at the beginning. You'll get to use the money you earn from battles put towards new moves and new Pokemon. Wait, didn't somebody already make a Pokemon roguelike? Fortnite. I know I already said it's kind of a bit of a roguelite, but I feel like it could benefit from an actual mode. Like almost any multiplayer game would be a really fun roguelite with friends. Fortnite's just always adding in new modes, so I feel like there's potential for that to actually happen. I could go all friggin' day about games that would be great with a roguelite mode. That's what's so great about the genre, is that it lends itself well to different interpretations. It's like the industry is constantly iterating on itself. Maybe one game will take some elements from another game, but add in something new. It's not like they're stealing concepts from other games, they're just learning from each other to make better games. Figuring out what works, and making games better overall. Because at the end of the day, isn't that what we all want? Better video games? Also, you may disagree with a lot of what I said here, that some of these games aren't roguelikes or roguelites. That's fine, everyone's got their own opinions and definitions. But what did you think of the games that I thought would be good with roguelite modes? Did you agree? Are there any other games that you could think of that would be good with a roguelite mode? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching to the end. Have a good one.